Did you know that one of the superpowers that we share as Latinos and Latinas can also be the same reason you keep getting stuck? And when I'm talking about getting stuck, I'm talking about career or in your business. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you. In a world that is full of AI and technology and robots, what is going to separate you from others is the humanity aspect. And the way we convey that is through storytelling. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about today. Now, this is a little bit more about relax. I'm not in my normal place where I'm doing my YouTube videos, but I literally got inspired to this video because I did an impromptu mini masterclass in my free community about the same subject, storytelling, and people loved it. And I said, you know what? I need to go and jump into the video and do a video here for my YouTube audience as well, and for everybody here that can help. So honestly, I came up with a framework that is called power because storytelling is going to be your power move. Yeah, see what I'm saying? What I'm doing there? And in case you're wondering about this free community, this is a free community of leaders just like you and I who are building that next big dream. And we're doing it in a very supportive way and intentional way. We're learning together. There's mini master classes, challenges, cafecito chats. And if this is something that is in alignment, make sure you go to the link in the description and I would love to see you there. And for those of you who don't know me, and yes, that's the name, Jennifer Lopez, okay? But you can call me Jenny or JLo, totally fine. And honestly, I am here to help you dream big and unlock that next big dream so that way you can make it happen with confidence, with clarity, intentionality, and also in a way that you don't burn out. So that's exactly what I've done my entire life. I climbed what they say, climbed the ladder in corporate, and I ended up being a vice president of global talent acquisition of a Fortune 500 company. And then at the same time, I had this crazy career as a dancer, professional dancer, and fitness instructor. And then as of 6 years ago, I started my business, which is my mission and why I decided to leave corporate 2 years ago. I'm a best-selling author and I do a lot of things. And I'm not doing it to brag, but it's honestly to show you what's possible and to tell you that the things that have worked for me and have worked with my clients, I love to share it here too, to inspire you to do the same. Okay, so let's talk about power because these videos are usually to the point. So talking about to the point, the P is that, the point. What's the point? What's the point of the message that you want to convey? And think about storytelling. You're probably thinking, well, why am I talking about storytelling? I'm not writing a book. Okay, storytelling can help you with a book, but it can help you in an interview. It can help you in a one-on-one. It can help you sell your product. It can help you in a networking event. Because what is storytelling at the end of the day? Is that you're conveying a story that creates an emotion, but people remember. Because again, there is a difference between you trying to convey a message through numbers and statistics and definitions and trying to make it so you look smart. And then on the other one, really having a story that is going to make a connection, that you understand that there is a feeling and they remember you because of X, Y, or Z. See, a lot of people love to tell stories just for the sake of, I think, listening to their own voices. But that's why this is going to take preparation. Nothing that I'm going to be teaching here is about winging it. It's about preparation. That's going to be your best friend. So what's the point? So before you go into that big meeting, the board meeting, or you even create content, what's the point that you want to make sure that people understand, the lesson that you want them to learn, the belief that you want them to live with? Okay, so the O is the occasions. Okay, so what's the occasion that you want to share to illustrate your point? And this doesn't have to be personal. Like, not all the time I'm talking about, well, this is what happened to me, right? Sometimes, whenever I do, I'm also a speaker. I'm bringing stories from family members or from friends with their permission or from things that I have heard, right? From stories that I have heard on the internet just to illustrate a point. So you have to choose what is that. And sometimes there may be many, but remember, less is more. And this is something that I want to make sure that you understand. Less is more. Less is more. Okay. So the W here is about, okay, so that was the occasion. So let's say, for example, it's a personal occasion. The W is for what do you do? So, okay, that was the occasion. What do you do? This is really what people are going to remember, right? What do you do? And then moving to the E was the effect. So what happened? What happened because of what you did? And again, it doesn't have to be you, but the main character of the story. What did they do, right? And what was the effect? And that's incredibly important. And remember, when it comes to effect, it doesn't have to be like, oh, everything was happy, joy, joy at the end. It could be, hey, it didn't go according to plan, But because of that, this is the lesson learned and how I decided to approach it moving forward. And honestly, sometimes those failures, which we're going to call them learnings, are the ones that connect the best with people, those raw moments. Because unfortunately, in social media, you just see the wins and the perfect days and the perfect stories, and you don't see that many of us grow because of the learnings. We're not saying failures, because of the learnings. So make sure you're raw, and that's how you're going to connect in with them. And then the R is very important. At the end of the day, you're preparing your story. And then, okay, I think this is what I'm going to use. Do your gut check. And the R is for relevance. How relevant is this with the audience that you're going to be talking to, or the person you're going to talking to, the group you're teaching, the audience you're going to talk in social media, the reader that is going to be reading your book, whatever that is, the person on the other side, how relevant it is that. Because if it doesn't matter how awesome you think the story is, if it's not relevant to them, right, it's just not going to resonate and it's not going to be remembered. And remember that for storytelling to be powerful, there has to be that emotional connection, that feeling that people are gonna help people remember you and remember the point that you made. So I'll give you a couple examples, because sometimes people give you frameworks. I'm like, okay, great, Jenny, but like, how does that really look in real life? So let's take an example of an interview and then say, hey, so tell me about you. And then I just go and give you a chronological order of the things that I've done, the same thing that they read in the resume. Well, I went to this school and then I graduated chemical engineering. And then this was my first job, my second job, my third job. Like, oh, boring. But if I say, hey, I had over 23 years of experiences, and as you can see in my resume, different areas, manufacturing, business, HR, and you're probably thinking, how did she do that? And I have this superpower of helping organizations how to really win by creating that winning culture. And how I learned it was through that example that you saw there in Kansas City. Let me tell you, my first day when I thought I was shaking the employees' hands, it was the FDA with a letter removing the GMP status of the facility that I was about to take charge on, right? So I'm sure we're going to discuss more about that in the interview. They're probably going to be like, wait a second. Wow, I already know that I had 23 years of experience. I had three different areas and what my superpower was. And then also that they're already intrigued to learn more about what happened in Kansas City. So that's the power of storytelling. You're bringing them to a place. Let's say, for example, I want to sell you something about how I teach your organization on how to approach burnout in employees. And I can tell you, the research says that 40% of employees are disengaged because of burnout. And that's exactly what I help with, versus saying, and obviously come up with something that is true, but I'm going to come up with something here fictitious just for the story to say, hey, you know what, my friend Maria, she was telling me the other day how she was driving to work and she was just dreading it to the point that she sat in her car in the parking lot for 10 minutes. And she said, Jenny, this was not like listening to radio or the music or even scrolling social media. I was just trying to find the energy and the courage to get out of the car and go to that darn job. That's exactly what she said. So imagine if you had 10 employees and four of them are just like Maria. That's the energy that it is in your organization right now. And then you can start getting and pitching through that example. People are going to remember that, right? They may not remember the 40%, but now you're thinking about, oh, Maria and 4 out of 10, and then they can connect the dots. So that's the power of storytelling. Let's say, like the last example I want to share here, and is when I do speaking engagements, I don't say, hey, my name is Jenny Lopez, and then I give a bio, and I'm so excited to be here. And today we're going to be talking about superpowers. Do you know what superpowers are? And I'll give like a whole definition, fancy definition for me to, like, I don't know, look smart. I don't do that. But then I say, hey, you know my son, Ethan? And then I start giving a whole example about when he was 10 years old and the fascination he had with frogs. And he also was a good writer because he likes the arts, and how all of that helped him navigate a really challenging time in school. And he used that, instead of feeling bad for himself, to be, how can I use this to help other kids as well? And how at the age of 10, he was able to write his first book about what to do in school when you get through bullying. And people are like, whoa, right? And that resonates. And again, I talk about powers through that example. And people, at the end of the day, they even feel empowered. Wow, if a 10-year-old can do that, I can do that too, right? So that's the power of storytelling. So I'm sure now you're convinced about that, or you understand how powerful is that in your whole life, professional or in your business. Now, the thing for Latinos that I was telling you at the very beginning is that we're so good about it because we're really good at telling stories, but then we're so good that we just overdo it. And we go here and go there and go here and go there. I mean, I know even in my family, there's a joke with my dad because he will say, Mira, nena, ¿te acuerdas? You remember of so and so? And we're like, uh-huh. She went to school with you in second grade. And we're like, uh-huh. Well, she had a second cousin, and that second cousin was a friend of actually a person I ended up working with, and blah, blah, blah. And it's this whole labyrinth. And we just joke because we never know what the story is about, or if it started, or when it's going to end, and what was the point. But now it's just a joke. But that's the thing. And again, when we are in activities that are social, we can talk forever. But sometimes when you have just 10 minutes with somebody, right? A 30-minute interview, or you had an audience for 20 minutes where you have their attention, you have to be very concise. So that's why you have to practice what's the point, and make sure that there is a connection and you follow through all of this, right? What's the point? What's the occasion? What do you do? And then what's the effect? And then the R is irrelevant. So prepare, prepare, prepare. I always tell some of my executive leader clients, I say, hey, sometimes we have this like 30-minute presentation, especially when they're the higher stakes meetings, board meetings and things like that. Sometimes they're running late and they say, hey, we have 5 minutes, pitch it. And you're like, I don't know, because my presentation is, I don't know how many slides. And you have to prepare for those occasions when you wish you had 30 minutes, but you have 5 minutes. So how do you use power, right? Framework for that occasion. So that's why this is so incredibly powerful. I don't know how many times I said that word in this video, but that's the point that I want to make. So make sure that you're not so lengthy and you get to the point and still being authentic to you. Like use that charisma, do use that energy, use the power of bringing people to the occasion that you are showcasing. But again, remember, this is not about you. This is about them. So make sure that you use the power framework. The other thing is that make sure that the story that is relevant to the people, and you just want to make sure it's not all about you all the time. And that's why I always say, especially if you are either speaking and things like that, it's not about you all the time. Remember who is the audience, who can they resonate with? You know, is it a story from a kid, or the story from a friend, or a story from a group or a previous client? Keeping confidentiality, obviously, at all times, but this is the way that you create connection in a way that is really authentic, and people see through all of that. So hopefully all of that help you. Again, storytelling, be very, very intentional with that. If you have any comments or anything that you say, oh, you know what, that really resonated with me, let me know in the comments, and make sure that you subscribe for the next video. And until then, I'll see you later. Make your power move now. Bye.